Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first cook along for 2023. For those of you that were part of the cook alongs over 2022, thank you for joining us again. It's great to be back, and I'd like to kick this broadcast off by introducing myself. As you know, my name is Costa Georgiadis, and I'm broadcasting to you today from here in Sydney, and I'm on the lands of the Gadigal and Bidigal people of the Eora, and it's wonderful to be able to come to you from here. And if you could mention to us in the comments whereabouts you're coming from, because our special guest, Kirsty and my special guest today, is also coming from Melbourne, where Kirsty is, who will jump on in a second. But yeah, it's wonderful to acknowledge the lands where we're from, and the elders past, present, and of course those emerging. And food plays such an important role, and that's been one of the reasons why we got together for these low waste cook-alongs, as a way during the pandemic to look at ways that people could use the food that they had, but really the foundation of it all was to look at how we can reduce waste. We can reuse and repurpose food that was left over, or that was down to, you know, the last couple of tired pieces of spring onion, or a couple of last pieces of kale that was sitting on the bottom of the crisper that don't need to be cast into the bin. Well, the bin, of course not, but even to the compost, they can live and breathe again. And that's part of the joy of this. And then, of course, the other theme that we want to touch on today is that low waste, and particularly zero waste, that opportunity to rethink how we purchase, where we purchase from, how they're packaging it, what sort of waste they're creating because we keep buying it. So on that note, it's wonderful to welcome Kirsty Bishop Fox from Sustainability Pathways. Kirsty does a lot of work with Zero Waste Victoria. Kirsty, great to be back doing one of our Zero Waste cook-alongs. Rewind a little bit on the background behind the cook-alongs and how people got involved and what the results were with the study at the uni.
Yeah, so these actually started as part of a research project from Monash University. I was a volunteer, not the researcher. They actually put a call out for volunteers to do a low waste project. And the projects varied. A lot of people were actually like reducing their food waste, or their recycling, or their single-use plastics, or whatever it happened to be. And I was a bit challenged by that, because I'd not challenged, like I'd already done that kind of challenge, and I didn't have a lot of waste. I didn't have no waste, but I didn't have very much. And I thought perhaps to make it more meaningful, I could do something different. So I thought of an educational program. And of course, what happened was this was the day before we went into our massive lockdown in Victoria, and I think everywhere else followed. And so I had to reinvent it. I got chatting to Costa, and it's like, well, let's jump online and showcase food waste and give people ideas and tips to reduce it. So we did a few different sessions. The first one had one of the researchers, and Costa, if you remember Costa, he pulled out some awful pumpkin. Well, I say awful, there was mould, he had to cut off it. We did some fritters, and then we've done a few other things. I think we looked at strawberries when there was a lot of strawberries. And we also had Jo Lindsay, who was the senior researcher on the last one that we did. And she actually told us some amazing results in terms of just actually showing what people did, and the lengths that people went to reduce waste was something that the researchers didn't quite expect. And I was pretty impressed to see that myself.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it's amazing how much has been done, and how many little, when you recapped it like that, we've done a few, and it's great to be doing this one, of course, ahead of the National Sustainable Living Festival, which this year is a series of different events. It's not being held along the river down at South Bank. It's a series of different events, and traditionally, where we've had the great local lunch, this year we're having the great local picnic. Tell us a little more about that, Kirsty.
Well, I'm actually really quite excited about this, and I know Costa is too, because we're at the point we're talking about. We tried to do this, last year, and we were running a few ideas around, and it was very hard to do without funding, or when people were kind of a bit unsure about coming out. And we thought about doing a picnic, because a picnic's something a little bit different. People can bring along their own lunch. They can kind of spread out. And we kept that idea running, and now the idea is here this year. It's going to be a sustainable zero waste picnic. And by zero waste picnic, I've literally drafted up a copy for those who have registered. I'll be sending it out later on tonight. We have no bins in our picnic zone except for compost containers. So we'll be encouraging people to bring their own picnic lunch, which is in reusable containers, and there'll be no waste. It's simple and straightforward and as easy as that. We're also encouraging...
Yeah, unreal.
Yeah, and we're encouraging people to bring containers too. So if they do grab a bite to eat from one of the venues there, or we've got some traders for coffee and for ice cream, then they can use their container and stick with the theme.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I mean, it's really all of this stuff and everything that we've done with these cook-alongs is really a mindset. And when people start to adapt to the mindset, they can start to rethink, and you don't have to change the behaviour overnight, because I think the key thing to all of this waste messaging is we really don't want one small corner of the population doing it to the nth degree, because it's not about that. It's not about, you know, a small number of people doing it perfectly. We need a large number of people slowly getting better and slowly making that change, because when all of the population is making a change, that's a lot better than a small number of the population doing it perfectly. So the better you get, the more you change your behavior, then the more you start influencing others, and the more your choices and the selection of your dollar spend can influence businesses to think differently about their wrapping, their packaging, their over wrapping, their over packaging, all of those things. So, you know, this is part of the big picture of this, but for the purposes of today's broadcast, we're going to get stuck into this this cook along. So Kirsty, would you like to introduce Mariam? And while you do that, I'm just going to run downstairs and flick my trip switch back on because I lost power. I won't be long.
He's lost power. Well, I'm very glad I'm logged in too, so we won't be dropping out tonight because I've got power and all sorted. So we've got Mariam Isa here, and Mariam is from Raw Australia, and Raw stands for Resilient Aspiring Women. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad, because I thought I don't have it in front of me. I was pretty sure. So I actually I know a little bit about Raw Australia, and could you tell us a little bit more about Raw Australia? You've got a community garden in your backyard that supports this organisation. Is that right?
Yes, Kirsty. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to this amazing cook-along. And I come from the Boomerang country. So RAW is a community organization, and the best part about it is it's in my backyard, literally. So I invited people to come in and garden with me so that we can create, you know, a resilient and sustainable community together. And the invitation was accepted by the community members, and we've done incredible work behind, you know, in the front and in the back. And we have about 30 fruit trees. We have, an orchard. We have a sensory garden, which we recently created. And yeah, so it is a thriving space that hosts community and brings people together.
And how big is your yard? Is it like massive acreage, or is it a suburban block? What's the size of your yard?
I think it was about 700 square meters. The whole property, plus the house that I live in.
So that's not huge, and you've got 30 fruit trees in it.
Yeah, no, it's not huge, but it's also, it's what we can do with small backyards and what we can achieve actually, you know, as a community. So it's a great project, and I'm so proud of it and love it. And as you can see, the back wall, that's our wall. We built it together, and it's called our Pillar of Love and Light. As you can see, the light's coming in at the moment.
That's actually light coming in through the wall, is it? That's not a decoration.
Through the glass, yeah. So it's a
Can
beautiful.
I ask what is the glass? Is that a special glass or what is
that? No, those are wine bottles. Hence, there's a lot of big bottles there, don't use it.
The glass is full of memories, is that right? Your own wine bottles?
Incredible memories, yeah. So because the whole community came together and built it, and it's just incredible what we do here.
Oh, lovely. Now, you told me that you were going to cook something from your garden. What have you pulled from the garden to cook with tonight?
Well, I did say from my garden, but actually what I'm going to cook today is from different gardens. So I have a beautiful friend here, Nina, come and say hi. And Nina and I visit gardens together, and we go to people's gardens, we go to friends' gardens, but mostly women's gardens, which have been amazing. And so we got a lot of different things. And recently, Nina went to school
to visit a Farm My School project next to Geelong. So this is a project where the school is redesigning an old soccer pitch, and they converted that in a farm. So imagine how you can do with these old spaces that are not used in schools, and how we can reinvent and redesign infrastructure that is available and it's just there, and we can re-engage people and students and the whole community in designing this kind of spaces that in the end produce for the community from the school.
From the school, yeah. As you can see, Nina is very passionate about it. So yeah, so that zucchini is from there. And then we have purple potatoes
from another garden, Karen's garden.
From Karen's garden, a good friend of mine. And then what do we have? We've got onions.
Wait, I just want to show the purple potatoes because they're very artistic. It's like, look at that. Yeah.
Totally. We've got onions, we've got herbs from our garden. And I also grind my own spices. So this is a curry powder spice that I made from scratch. And we've got some garlic from the garden. So
that's from Brian's garden.
From Brian's garden, which is all the way from
Seymour.
And Mariam, can you tell us, for the benefit of people, because not everyone grinds their own spices. Most people often buy them, just already pre-ground. Have you got something special you do, or is it like a mortar and pestle? How do you grind your spices?
So what I do is I roast the spices. So the curry powder is actually about 8 different spices. So coriander, fenugreek, mustard, 5 spice. So there's a lot of different spices, and then I roast the spice and then I grind it. I have
equal parts, or is there a formula, or is it just what you've got? How do you?
Of course, you have to have a formula so that, because some can take more than others. The spices are different in strength. So, for instance, the fenugreek is a very strong and potent scent. So you don't want much of that, and you add more coriander. So you put it in parts, and it's just how you. I come from eastern part of Africa, from Kenya, but I'm originally from Somalia. I grew up in Kenya, and that's how we were taught. So the Indian influence. Whoa, what happened?
It's okay, I'm here.
Okay, yep. So that's what I do. And so what I'm making you today is called bhajia, and it's really beautiful finger food and great for the picnic.
Does the name have a meaning, Mariam? In Somali?
Not really. I think it's connected to an Indian name. It's a Swahili name, actually. It's not Somali name.
What's the difference?
Kenya and Somalia. So Kenya is where I grew up, And so they speak Swahili. So I do speak Swahili and Somali and English and Arabic. So I have 4 languages as well.
And what's the name of the dish that you're cooking tonight?
Bajia.
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 Lovely, lovely. Costa, have we got you back?
Yeah,
you've got me back, everyone. I solved my my electrical blackout, which is good. I've got my my computer going here, so I can see the comments a lot easier than in the small screen over here on the right. And I suppose I'm ready to explain my cooking tonight. I thought what I'd do is make, in a sense, pretty much using the same recipe that everyone saw in the post, but which Kirsty put up there. But what I'm going to do, instead of it like a zucchini slice, I'm going to make it like kind of, and this is like for that picnic idea. I'm going to make it in these little muffin containers, and I'm going to make like little spinach. Well, what I had in the fridge was some spring onions, some kale, and some silver beet. And I also had a couple of corns which I wanted to cook. So what I'm going to do is I'll just lightly fry these off, and then I'll mix them with the corn, which I've already steamed, and then I'm going to put some ricotta and feta in those, mix it up with some egg. What do you reckon, Kirsty? Will I put a bit of flour in there?
I tend to put flour in. That's a zucchini slice, but if you don't, it's going to be a bit more frittata-ish, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I reckon. So maybe I'll put it to the people. Unless, Miriam, you want to make a casting vote, whether I make it.
I think a little bit of flour will make it even better. Not too much. I'm using basil flour, which is chickpea flour in mine.
Chickpea flour. Yeah. Well, I've got a couple of different flours in there. I'll have a look as I mix it up. So yeah, that's pretty much the essence of what I thought from a picnic, from a picnic point of view. And the other trick that I've got that I'll share with you, and I got this recently because I was down in Tassie and a friend of mine had this, and I saw it and I was like, ooh, I like it. And then she's such a good person. About a week or so later, I ended up with a birthday gift. And this is the little spray olive oil. So I can just spray these tins. Let me see if you can see that up nice and close. I can just spray these and then put the mixture in, and they're not going to stick. So yeah, that was my, I tend not to get that many new things, but this was given to me as a birthday gift and I've been loving it. So that was my picnic hack, that I'm going to make them as little finger food size things that I can then just put into to a container, like that, and stack them in there and take them to the picnic, and that way I don't have any waste. So that's my plan. I suppose I should start cooking so that it's actually for this year's picnic, not next year's.
That's great. I'll tell you what I've got now.
Yeah, what are you up to?
I've got some zucchini. I've got a couple of zucchini. I actually got these. They're not from my garden. Unfortunately, I had the snails smash my zucchini plants before they became zucchini plants. But I got them from Alvin. Alvin is in my Buy Nothing group, and I just wondered if anyone had zucchinis. He said, I've got a whole crisper jar full. Please, please, please come and take some. And he gave me zucchini, and I told him I was cooking along with you, and I said I was making a dip, and he said, tzatziki, I said, you've nailed it. And I was going to do that with zucchini. I still might, but he gave me a cucumber, and so he actually has a beautiful garden. I had a bit of garden envy with his beautiful fence of beans all growing over the garden. Not quite ready to harvest, but it looks spectacular. So I'll be using these tonight. I'm going to start by just grating zucchini. It's a really, really simple recipe. And if you don't have enough zucchini, you can use any vegetables you like. You could use carrots, you could use capsicum, whatever works. Just throw it in and see what happens. So I'm just going to start grating this up, and then I'm going to mix some eggs and flour in the bowl. How are you going there, Mariam?
Well, someone just asked me, Mariam, can you give us some recipe? Well, Mariam is an intuitive cook. I've never cooked from recipes. So what I will do, though, I will teach you how to be an intuitive cook today. At least, you know, at the beginning of becoming an intuitive cook, which is a really exciting thing. So I was taught by my mother how to cook when I was 10. And I think, you know, we just never followed recipes. It was always what we had. And I think I do come from a culture that back home we have zero waste. You know, everything is reused, everything is, you know, reconnected. We went to the market every day. So I actually never changed that. I came to Australia and I'm still doing what my, you know, ancestry or my mom had taught me. But hopefully I will kind of, you know, go along and let you know. So I used half of the zucchini that you just saw. It is a very big, almost done. So, and some potatoes. So it can be a carb together, or you can just use zucchini if you want to. You don't have to use both. I pre-boiled the potatoes a little bit. You don't have to do that to the zucchini because the zucchini really cooks very easily. And then with my spices as well, I'm going to use a lot of herbs, and I'm also using dandelion, which is from my garden, and red vine sorrel. So
nice.
all this is going to make it, you know, it adds to the color. In Africa, we love color. So this is about, I've got purple, you know, potatoes, green zucchinis, and all this green stuff, and it's going to be amazing. So just follow along and try. I think intuitive cooking is all about the 5 senses: the touch, the taste, the connecting with what you're doing, and that's how actually the food comes together. It's about cooking with love. You can never go wrong with it.
Yeah, cooking in the hairs, you already have there like 6 or 7 kinds of hairs as well.
Yeah, the herbs. So I've got parsley, I've got chives, Chinese chives, and I've got mint. So herbs added with spices, it's gonna be amazing. It makes the most beautiful aroma.
I'm already hungry. I mean, I have to confess something. Mariam has a bowl with food scraps, and she peeled everything. So I'm eating the scraps. I'm feeling like a chicken.
I've got my lunch bin right here.
Your chicken. I'm eating food scraps.
So how are you going there, Costa?
Okay, well, I think people can see I'm just frying off the kale. The silver beet, the spring onions that were very tired. They were at the they were getting to the end of their life, and I'm just fine chopping the silver beet stem so that it can go in there along with the onion and fry off, and then the kale. I'm just going to chop that up pretty much the same, nice and fine. And, oh, that's smelling good already. Wow, let me get my spoon. So I'm just going to, I'll put the lid on there actually and let them soften up while I do the kale. And then once I've done that, I'll just oil up the rest of the tray, and then I'm going to get my mixing bowl. As a cook, I think some of my most valuable items are the items that I know that my mum and my grandmother mixed things in. And I feel like every time I mix something in there, they're mixing it with me. Because I think food is, as Mariam, you said, you know, you got taught and you learnt all this stuff, you know, standing over, standing in the kitchen like this, you know, waiting for a morsel to come or being allowed. Look, I've still got, this is the stool that I used to stand on in the kitchen and be able to lick the spatulas and you know, help stir something or whatever. So you stirred my emotions there, Mariam, when you talked about that part of your history. So I put a question out there to everyone listening. Who did you watch? Who did you watch? And who, I can see Bill Anastasiadis asked, how about some spanakopita? Yeah, I would, Bill, but that would take a while. Wait, there's a hair in my food. PJD, you're giving me a bit of curry already. And I would say, if you got a hair in your food, you get to pay $100 as payment for having it. You know, I think that would be the bonus. But yeah, put up on the like Mariam said, put up on the chat who inspired you in the kitchen. Was it your mum like Mariam's mum, or was it your mum and your grandmothers like me? That to me, that's the real heritage aspect of food that gives it the deep cultural flavour. But I'm going to go and find that bowl while you take over, Kirsty.
Okay. All right. I think I love to cook. I learned a little bit from my mum, but I actually didn't just have my mother's influence. I actually had a lot of cooking. I did. They call it food tech at school now, but I did what they called home ec, and I used to love cooking. One of my fondest memories I have was when we made tomato relish, and there were like 10 or maybe I think it was 15 kilos being cut in the room, and everyone was in tears, but the relish was great. So I've actually got my eggs. I've got 5 eggs in here, whisked up, and I'm going to put in a cup of self-raising flour. This is wholemeal flour. I like to use the wholemeal flour because it just gets a little bit of extra goodness into us, and I also need to use it up because it's been in my cupboard for a while. So it's really quite straightforward to mix it in. You want it well mixed. Now's a good time to put in a bit of salt and pepper if you choose to, depending on what you're putting in it. So I'm just going to grab some pepper and grind that in for extra flavour. That's all in there. I've grated zucchini while we're chatting for zucchini and spring onion that I've chopped up. I'm going to put that in. A bit like American, like I say 2 or 3 zucchinis, but how big is a zucchini? Sort of gauge it there. And when it looks like it's too full and can't hold anymore, it is. Just going to grab a spatula, grab the full, and mix that in. And if anyone's got any special flavour combos they like to use, let us know. I'm actually just looking at this here going, I think it can hold a bit more. So I've got some carrot. The carrot was sort of on its last leg. And I'm going to put a bit of cheese in tonight. You don't have to put cheese in, but I like to have cheese in. It just adds a little bit of extra calcium, which we need to have in this household. That's all mixed in. So we're great there and good to go. Really easy, almost done. Now I'm going to show you a little zero waste trick that I do. Most recipes say to get your tin and to put baking paper in it. Baking paper doesn't recycle, so I try not to use it. I tend not to use it at all. And I just do it the same way I do my cake tin, with a bit of butter or oil. And I just slightly lightly pop the oil in and let it completely cover it. I might put my fingers in and use my fingers in a minute to help out. And then I'm going to flour it and it won't stick. But you want to make sure that you don't miss any spots or it might. And if it does stick a little bit, it doesn't matter, you just pull it out, it should be right. So I've got that here. I'm going to grab where to go. Just a little bit of a yes there. That's going to take us through. And I just kind of just tap it all around until it's completely covered. Probably should have sifted that or something. And any extra will just straight into the there. Oh yes, I thought we lost it there. So how are you going, Mariam?
I'm going.
Yeah, how's it going, Mariam?
Mine is going to be deep fried. So I have my mixture like that. So I've added the flour, which is chickpea flour, and I'm now going to fry everything. So I mixed everything with my hands because that's partly the intuitive cooking. And it allows you to even know that, the texture, how soft do you want it, or how you're going to put the flour in. So it just is a good measure. Instead of using, you can use, spoons or other things to mix, but I feel like, my hand does the work so much better. And once you learn how to make bhajias, they're really very easy to make, and they are very, very beautiful. They, and they're the finger foods. So later on, make some sauce with tamarind, and we're going to do it with tamarind sauce that is with honey. Gives it a really beautiful taste.
Mariam, I've been reading some of the comments that came up in response to that question, and there's been so much. Grandma taught us all how to make Yorkshire puddings. My nanny and Poppy ran a pie and sausage roll bakery on the Gold Coast for so long. No one cooks better than your grandparents, and got my love of cooking from my grandmother and mum. I always enjoyed going out and picking the veggies and cooking with them. My daddy cooked as much as my mama, cooking porridge over the fire with my nan. And I like this one from John Blake. My nonna and mum taught us as a very young age. They said all boys need to know how to cook. Definitely my grandma. My grandma taught me to cook, says Arabella. My grandmother says Sharon Blake. So yeah, it's wonderful to hear where these real foundations around food got the connection,
Yep. Yeah, I think what you said resonated with me so much, Costa, that our ancestors, when you're in the kitchen, you feel like your mother is right next to you. And, in our African culture, we really don't believe in death. We believe in the continuation of life, and that we're always surrounded by the people that we love who have passed on. So that was a really, it was a comment that was very much in alignment with my cultural, heritage and background. And I know that now, people are starting to understand that, honestly, and especially being farmers and gardeners, we know that there is no death, that there is always rejuvenation. There's always, energy is always around us. So that was a great point you made, Krista. And when we share their stories, I think, it also adds to how blessed we are here in Australia, and how we're connected, and how when we cook here, we can literally be connected to the parts of the world that we've come from. And some people, my family could be watching this now from as far as Kenya or Uganda. So it's really powerful.
Yeah. Now, I was just going to say, just as a follow-up, everyone, particularly if you're in Victoria or in Melbourne, the picnic will be on Sunday the 26th. Is that correct, Kirsty?
Yes, I'm just putting the link in now.
Yeah, Sunday the 26th. So, while this is going out nationally, we'd love to see and be able to talk at the different discussions with all the people at the picnic. I'll be coming around and looking at what people have cooked up. Now, while we're at it, this is, let me just put the thing back to multiple camera. Where am I? This one. Okay. So that's the bowl that I was talking about. This is the one that my grandma and my mum used to mix stuff in. And it looks brand new because they looked after it. And so the moment I put this mixture in there, that's had so many mixtures put in there over the years. So I'm now going to add the eggs and the flour. And I was down at the supermarket the other day, and they had some ricotta that they were throwing out because it had reached the so-called use-by date. So I'm going to mix some ricotta in there as well. Oh, I got to add the corn. So I'm going to slice the corn off. You can watch me doing that, riveting stuff, and then I'll put them in here, and hopefully they'll get 15 minutes before the end, and be cooked. So over to you, Kirsty, and I'll just get on with this little bit, and away we go.
All right, just trying to get the right setting here, and I'll be back on. If I can just jump over, here we go. Got my laptop and the phone happening. So I've got mine sliced in. It takes half an hour, so I wanted to get it in as quick as we can, so we're not waiting all night for it to finish. But in the meantime, I thought I'd make up a quick little dip. And what I've got here is I've got some yogurt. I tend to make my yogurt, which is really easy to make, because all you need to make, I can't show you how to make yogurt, it takes a bit longer than it does in this session, but I just take a little bit of the yogurt from the last batch, heat up a litre of milk, and put a bit of yogurt in there, and then I cool it a bit. It's quite easy. You can look up how to do it. But anyway, I've made my yogurt, and I want it to be a little bit thicker. Sometimes it can be a bit thin, especially with this dip, which is fine if you want to do it through a salad mix. But if you want it thick, then I just actually get some cheesecloth and pop the yogurt in here, which I did about, I don't know, maybe an hour ago. And I've let it drain out. So you can see just the liquid down the bottom there. So I'm just going to pop that aside. I'm not going to use that tonight, but I'll probably use that on my muesli in the morning, or sometimes I'll use it in baking, like muffins or pancakes or something like that. So I'm just going to tip that out, and I'm going to use the same bowl, because otherwise I run out of bowls. I have an incredible ability when I cook sometimes to use every single bowl in the house, and I'm almost there today. This is not something I tend to measure. You can, but I tend not to just use what I've got. So I'm just going to put the yogurt in here. It's nice and nice. And what I've been doing is I've been straining the mixture of the in here. So I've just been straining in here. The juice comes out. And I don't really juice in this because it just thin. I'll drink the juice. The juice is delicious. It's nice on its own, or I might mix it in with something else. But I just wanted this out so I get a thin. This is just one small cucumber. What I like about this is if you've got cucumber, you've got 1.5 cucumbers or zucchinis, you can use whatever you've got. You don't have to be too fussy about this recipe. I think the only recipes I'm fussy about are the baking ones where you've got to be really quite particular. And I'm going to, sometimes I chop, but I want it quite fine, so I've got a microphone here that I'm using. And put the amount of garlic in to taste that you like. You can put in a whole clove, a half clove, depending whatever. I think bits and pieces up. It surprises me when I see all the dips you can put when they're really so easy to make. And although sometimes I make dips intentionally, half the time I make these bits and pieces that are left. In there. Really watching, just mixing. And then I'm going to taste it and probably add some lemon and salt. So where's the lemon? So if you've got some favourite dips that you like to use, then just let us know in the chat. Okay, cool. So how are you going there, Mariam?
Well, I'm done. So I was showing people the process in which I was frying, and I have the bhajis ready. Don't they look amazing? And they're crispy and really, really yum. So you can dip that in. I have tamarind sauce here. Let me show. This is the tamarind sauce, and you add tamarind with honey and
yum.
Best ever sauce. You will never go for any other sauce. And
stop it. Stop it.
I know Mikado is suggesting it's a bit like a tempura, a Japanese dish. I think that sounds that looks about right.
yeah, and sometimes we also add chili. So if you want to make it a little bit, if you like the kick of heat on your tang, then this is the best recipe.
Well, I hope you bring some of those in a couple of weeks' time, because I might have to find you and track you down.
Oh, definitely. We'll make some. A lot of my friends are coming along. So yeah, let's catch up at the picnic. And we will actually share a recipe. I'll put a recipe on. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, the Raw Garden, and that's Raw Australia on Instagram. And yeah, so we'll put the recipe there for you. Anybody who's interested in this vegan can go there.
Look at that. Oh my god, it's so yum.
Oh, stop it.
Oh my god. Kirsty, look at this. Look. You can see the colors.
I want to jump right through and just grab them.
Oh, yeah, Mariam.
I was happy with my slice until I saw what you've got. Now I've definitely got picnic food envy right now.
Oh, and
Yeah,
I think
good.
you got great, Katsi, with your recipe there.
With dip?
Yeah, with that dip, it would go amazing.
We'll have to see if I can break some up, and we'll share a picnic rug.
Totally.
How are you going, Costa?
Okay. Can I say that I love the fact that there was very many comments saying that families have the same bowl, and I think it makes me think a little bit about the fact that, you know, we're talking in these broadcasts about waste and about how we can live more, like, in a way that's not driven by fads and trends. And, you know, you look at that. That bowl has stood the test of time. The colour of the bowl does not make you a better cook. And I think, you know, the fact that people can buy and just go out and say, oh, I'll buy a whole new set of cutlery and crockery, it kind of defeats the purpose, you know? Like, this has more value. This is more expensive. The values of this bowl hold more to me than whether I could buy, you know, a new trendy coloured one that fits the current kitchen trends and all of that malarkey. So I'm chuffed that so many of you have commented that you have that same bowl. This bowl will still be used by my great-great-grandchildren unless it, you know, comes into, you know, a problem and falls off the bench and breaks. So I have put the corn. I've put a couple of teaspoons. Oh, this is Turong Farm flour. It's stone ground flour from just outside of Melbourne. Look up Turong Farm. They're unreal, and it's all stone ground. It's fresh flour. It makes such a difference to the flavour. And I'm fortunate enough to get that whenever I'm down there. So I've got the greens. I put the corn. I've put the eggs. I put some ricotta, and I've also put some feta. So that's pretty much ready to be spooned into the little things and go in the oven. I might just add, just to give it that little bit of zing. This is some beautiful herbs. This is actually, some of this was out of my garden, and it went into the bottom of a container that had a whole lot of Greek thymion, which is Greek thyme, which has a different flavour to the thyme that I grow here in my garden. So I've got actually a bit of both of that in there. So I'm ready to spoon this in, and we'll see how these little babies go. Not as fast, Miriam, you're an absolute cooking dynamo. You're already got them cooked. I'm banging away here, chatting away about the emotion around my bowl and my stool, and you've already cooked.
I'm also an African woman.
The recipes.
Costa.
What means that?
Food means that we're cooking, and we're trained, you know, by the patriarchy to cook for our husbands and, you know, to cook for our homes. And it's just like almost always being in the kitchen. So in time, you become an expert in it. But when I came to Australia, actually, it was the one thing, Costa, that really connected me to community. So it is a great catalyst for social change and social cohesion and connection. So it has allowed me to really interact with the community at a deeper level. So I'm so grateful for, you know, being given this gift by, you know, my mother, who almost, like, I wasn't the curious one, as you said, who was stepping on the stool. No, my mom had to force me to cook because I wouldn't make a good wife otherwise.
Yeah.
Possible that this was in Africa and was in my cultural background as well, in coming from Latin America.
There you go. Yeah, the commonalities.
Oh my God, that's because we live in patriarchy.
Yeah, totally.
I want to show Mariam your food waste. I mean, that's minimal.
Yeah, and it goes to our compost. Actually, we have a compost farm, so
it's not
nothing is wasted. Actually,
yeah, nothing's wasted.
Well, that looks really good.
Look at that. Look at that for the quantity. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Did you add a little bit of baking powder? We added a little bit of baking powder to give it a bit of fluff and crispiness.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll save that for next time.
Next time. Don't have to. I don't think you have to, but it's just...
Someone else mentioned that earlier, Mariam. Someone said add a bit of, I was watching the comments and someone said add a little baking powder, but I'll remember that for next time.
Or if you're using self-rising flour, it could also.
All right, well, I'm going to put this in the oven. What's the time? Right on 7. So I reckon about 10, 15 minutes and these will be cooked. They're not going to take long at all.
Mm.
I got the oven at about 180.
Yep.
Excuse me, I just got to move the camera a bit so I can get the door open. Let's see what happens.
I love the fact that everyone is using zucchini because it's zucchini season.
Yes.
We did also a guacamole, which is tomato. It's a season of tomato as well, so it's a good dip to join. Actually, using all the dishes that Kirsty and Costa are preparing. So maybe you can bring some guacamole for the picnic. Great picnic! I can't wait.
Mm.
So while we're waiting for things to cook, Costa, I thought I'd just raise issues which I say issue, it is an issue, it's a very big issue which it doesn't get resolved, and that's the single-use plastics. And single-use plastics are quite problematic, and what's been getting attention in the headlines again and again is the plastic bags. We all know that the collapse of recycle happened, and this morning I was actually contacted by a radio station in Melbourne just to give a comment to that, because it just keeps getting in the headlines, and it was really quite interesting because what actually bothers me most about it is there's a lot of talk about what we should do. I'm just going to change this camera over. A lot of talk about what we should do to manage it. We've got all this single-use plastic. It's going to landfill. It's been saving it and collecting it, and now they're just throwing it away. And I find it quite interesting because there are people who've never, ever thought about it before, and now they're up in arms that it's happened. And I think it's got attention, but what I like people to do is actually think about it. It's like we're trying to manage all this plastic. Is the problem that we can't manage it, or is the problem that why is there so much of it? All the produce in our garden had it easy, and I did too, in the sense that I've got some of this from people who grow it, but I don't actually have the luxury of being able to eat all the food that someone's homegrown. A lot of the food I buy is either from a veggie store or farmers market, and it's a really easy thing that we can do to just avoid this plastic. And I've been asked the question so many times, like, what can we do apart from, I'm doing what I can, what can we do with plastic? My advice is just to ditch as much as you can. So Zero Waste Victoria, which is the hats I wear, we're a not-profit organisation in Victoria, but we're starting a campaign called Reuse Instead, Take Zero Waste Pledge. And the idea of that is just to get people thinking. And when I go shopping every now and then, I'll post it on my page just to get people thinking, is that just have it. There's the conversation. Do you know what? We actually don't need to get pictures that are wrapped in plastic and have the broccoli just sitting in the college. There is no even have to. So if we can actually get more diligent and go, do we need to have this plastic? I'm just going to grab something from my fridge to show you. Really straightforward. This is actually a wash bag because I couldn't put my other bags here, but this is how I get my cherries. I take my cherries in, take my own bags in, and I got the cherries loose. And so I can do away with getting any plastic altogether. So I would use this for beans or for sometimes greens if I don't have my garden to do that. So we can start thinking about how can we ditch the plastic. The things we can do is to go to some of the bulk stores and take your own and refill them. Just those little things that we can do, and we can avoid more plastic. And although I'm talking about actions that an individual can do, I also think, Costa, and I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this, it's like as a consumer we can do so much, but we really need to make the companies accountable who make this plastic, admit that the problem is happening not because one company who's collecting it doesn't have anybody to take it, because nobody wants it. Single-use plastic has no real value. So if we compare it to something like aluminium has value. People want it, they'll pay for it. Even PET, which is in drink bottles, that, but plastic bags no one wants. So I just wonder if Mariam's got any tips, and I'm putting on the spot here because we didn't chat about this before we come on. Are there any tips or things that you do to try and reduce your plastic consumption?
Oh, totally. It's crazy because plastic, it seems sometimes that it's taking over, and especially it makes me upset when I go to the beach or walk in the bay and I see a lot of, the waste through the bottles we use for water and all that, which I feel like we do have the choices to really make, to use something different. And I do, like in my household, even my, yes, we do have plastic containers, but very minimal. I love the glass containers. I think, I also, have, like you, Katsi, my shopping bags are mostly cloth bags. I have baskets, which reminds me of back home, which, when you go to the market, it really is special when you have a hand-woven basket. My mother was a weaver. And so, yeah, I do have that affiliation with natural fiber instead of plastic. And I think, education is the thing. And as you said, connecting with these companies and creating awareness, just like you're doing. So it's so important that we let go of plastic, because it's ruining a lot of things and our waterways and a lot of it.
Yeah, I would love to say something about the individual point of view. Like, just we can make changes, like just changing our proper routines and thinking our cultural backgrounds as well. Because we said before, like, we came from zero waste cultures, and plastic is something very Western oriented. If we see how we prepare food in our cultures, we didn't have plastic. We used a lot of natural materials. We used a lot of leaves. We weighed. All the baskets were before from natural fibers. And even you come from a nomadic tradition. Yes. And I love the story about how you build houses there. Maybe you can talk a little bit, Mariam, about it, because this is how we lived before, and this is the technology that we need. We don't need the screens, and we don't need food in plastics. We need to come back to ancient wisdom.
Yeah, and I think, yes, we do live in modern times, but we can go back into traditions, as Nina is saying. Yes, my parents were, of the nomadic culture. So, and especially women were the ones who built homes, and they were called akal, and they were weaved, from natural tree, the trees, the sticks, the sticks. And then they used also the fibers to really build strong homes. There is an incredible woman who does a bit of work here in Melbourne now, who comes from a nomadic tradition, and she tells that story. And she's a weaver herself, so she connects us back to how we built homes back there. And those homes were strong, and they were made in such a way that they could be dismantled and then carried in a camel and then rebuilt somewhere else. So it's important. One of my greatest values is creativity. And I think, the more we start working with our hands and start doing things, with weaving or just, crocheting or doing things with our hands, it opens our minds. And I think that's coming back to well-being, being natural and, connecting with ourselves. So it's part of that.
Yeah, that's lovely. It totally is. It's a case of sometimes we're looking for these new and innovative ways to solve this plastic crisis, but the answers are right in front of us. We already have the answers. Maybe just go back to what we did before, not to go backwards, but because it actually worked better than what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in the end, if we think like what is go forward for me, coming from Latin America, it's plastic. So plastic is a Western problem. How we solve it? Because we through colonization, I think we need to put this topic on the deck, because we through colonization used to diminish what was the ancient wisdom, how tribes thrive actually. The people who the truly custodians of the land were Aboriginal people. They were here, like even in Australia, like 60,000 years before, like this modern world. How is possible with capitalism and all the consumerism we are killing the planet in, I don't know, 1 century? It's not possible. We need to put in value again this kind of wisdom, and for me, farmers should rule the world. And I know I'm just like one individual, like one migrant with a migrant story, but I think it's a lot of people thinking like this, and we need platforms like you guys to show that another world is possible. With Mariam, we gather like all the ingredients from different kind of gardens. Why? Because we were attracted per the biodiversity that we have here in the garden. Possums eat everything. We have to net like the whole place. We don't want to do that, so we were trying like permaculturist thing to avoid that. But then we thought, we have a network. Let's get things from our network, and we have to come back to community. And this is what Mariam is doing here in Brighton East. So if you want to come have a look, you're more than welcome, guys. Please.
My spokesperson and marketer.
No, please, we need support, we need help, and we are so proud to be here, because if we are here, it's because we like privilege, and we need to find the middle point where we can live in balance and in harmony with nature. We are not saying going backwards. We are saying let's put in value the cultural background and the wisdom that we found in different cultures, like for example in your culture, Mariam, in Africa, and let's build something together. Let's find a middle point where we can live in harmony as a community, and we can support each other. Like we have ingredients here that I think is around 5 gardens, and if you try like Mariam's recipes, you can taste all the fresh herbs that she collected from her garden. So I think that's what we have missing. We have missing this space where we can talk, cook together, and we can just joke about different things and
have
show
passionate conversations.
That.
Okay, back to you, Katsi.
It's a really interesting point you make about the farmers, because, you know, if you look at, I mean, everyone has an important role in society and everyone's got their things, you know. There's certainly some, you know, the healthcare workers teaching children at school, working in stores. They're very valuable positions, but if the farmers stop farming tomorrow, everyone, except for people who have their own home gardens with a lot of food happening in it, but the majority of people are going to be affected by that. And it really, I think sometimes food is undervalued. And people are starting to notice it now. The cost of food is going up. And there's lots of reasons for that. But unfortunately, in most of the cases, it's not because the farmers are making any more money. It's things out there. But what is interesting, because when you talk about the value, you talk about the food and the food that you've grown, there's nothing like getting a perfectly ripe peach off a tree. Compared to a peach that's picked under ripe is never going to get that same ripeness. It's very, very special, and I think that to be able to grow your own food in some ways, in many ways, it's a privilege to be able to do that, to have the space and to share. But it's also something that if people actually realise what they're missing, I think they get so caught up in their busy lives, and it's like, oh my gosh, you know, to get takeaway, that's okay. Sometimes they get takeaway as a treat, but if you're relying on that because you don't have the time and energy, I find that I get busy sometimes, and when I get back to basics and cook something, it doesn't have to be fancy. It actually just tastes better and it feels better. And if everybody did that, we'd all be better off.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, look at the reality, Mariam. You prepared and cooked and had that food on the table in 20 minutes. My thing, given that I was talking and foofing around and blah, 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 that didn't take that much longer. Yet the default position of coming home and saying, oh, I'm tired, I'll get takeaway. And takeaway, if you put a price per kilo on takeaway, you are paying massive amounts per kilo if you were to say how much of that piece of green lettuce that you have in that, like that would be pricing it out at $50, $60 a kilo. So, you know, this whole idea, and I think it's part of what's really lovely about this little cook along, is to just say, you know, you can have a couple of pots growing, you can have a plot in your garden, you can have a little bit of a patch on your street and grow some of these things, save yourself the money, but more so it's the convenience. I'm up for convenience in the garden, not convenience when you buy it on your way home. Convenience that you can walk out to your garden and pick it fresh, because then that has a real convenience value, not the dollar. There's no dollar value on that, because convenience value has a massive dollar value, like, and you pay through the nose. Whereas when you go and pick something and cook it quickly, it's not about the pace. It's also about that action of cooking the food, slowing down, being a part of it, sating the appetite, and then eating it. There's another level, and that's being conveniently wiped out of the cultural hub of the family, because when it's convenient, it comes in a box and it all gets separated and everyone goes to their respective corners. It dismantles the family opportunity. And so many people spoke about in the chat earlier about watching their grandmother cook, watching their mother cook, cooking with them, being able to be a part of that, and whetting. It's not just the appetite for the food, it's the communication. So yeah, I think there's so many layers to this, and when we open up the layers like an onion, then people can attach where they resonate, and then through that resonance they'll get drawn into the other layers. That's what I really like about it. And you know, you're bringing something different today, and some of the comments that people have said about your thoughts, you know, that's what it's about. That's what the table allows. When everyone sits at the table, they're equal. There's no one, like, everyone's got the same reach to the center of the table. And to me, that's the most powerful thing, I reckon. And food is that great leveler. And it's not about expensive is better. What's better is fresh and local, and with your hands in it. And when your hands are in it, and it's in a bowl like that, then there's a lot of love. And the love is the piece of ingredient that is not in the pantry. It's in the time, I reckon. And not the time that I put in, the time. The time of being together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my that's my addition to what you were both saying. I love it.
I think, and it's not lost to us either, Costa. I think it's very much alive, and especially, you know, now that I'm reminiscing, because I have a beautiful contrasting, you know, experiences. I reminisce for, you know, back home, and I come from Kenya, as you know, the coastal parts of Kenya. And what they did there was, like, we had free food forests. So we would just go into the forest and, you know, have our baskets full of mangoes and guavas and all kinds of amazing fruit. But also what I liked is in the roundabouts, you know, when people were coming from work, there was cabbages and there was kale, and it grew in the wild, and people would just pick on their way home. So those cultures still exist, and it's still here. And it's just like, you know, yes, we've gone up, you know, forward into our thinking, and we wanted to see something different, but we can come back and go and really connect to ourselves and say, we are custodians of this earth, and what can we do to really come back to ourselves and to heal ourselves and support, the planet to, healing with us. And so it's I think now more necessary than anyway. It's not something it's something we have to do, and doing it in a creative way, using our technology and coming together. You're in Sydney, we're here in Melbourne, and connecting and having this amazing audience connect to us and listen to these stories. I feel like that's an incredible thing. And the stories do, uplift a community. In our African heritage, we say cultures who don't tell stories die out. And so it's important that we support each other in sharing these stories and creating compassionate spaces for these stories.
Yes, I hear you totally. There's someone said before, I think it was Steph, I feel like you're preaching I think we've got a lockup. Can people still hear me? I'm not sure if that's Mariam that's
I can hear you.
locked up there.
I think I'm locked out. Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Please. We can hear you, yes.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it just seems to have locked up on the screen there. I'm not sure if that's my screen that's locked up or... Oh, there we go. No, we're good now. We're good. I think you don't need to see my back, but I'll just go back to some of the comments. Catherine Wheatley says, this is a great... I'm 83 years this year and still grow most of my own veggies. Have just been given 7 corrugated high beds for my old age. Can't wait to plant all my winter veggies. 83 years old. That is sensational, Catherine. And that's what it's about. It is achievable. And the more at the moment I'm involved with the Grow It Local seed service. Look it up. Grow It Local is spreading around the country really, really nicely. But basically, if you get involved, you can sign up and you'll get sent your seeds. And so far, they've had the first Grow It Local seed service grow along, and that was a caprese salad. What happened was you were sent 3 different types of seeds for salad greens, and then once prior to the seeds, you got a video sent out with a background to the seeds that were coming. Then you got a video sent that said, this is how you prepare your soil. Then this is how you sow. This is some troubleshooting. This is ongoing maintenance and propagation. And then at the end, you get the recipe and you make the caprese salad. And that was with Paul West. And the second grow along with the seed service is my heirloom spanakopita. So this is my grandmother and my mother's recipe. And for that, people are going to be sent 3 seeds, not 3 in number, 3 different types of veggies. They're going to get a black Tuscan kale, a Bloomsdale spinach, and a rainbow chard. And basically, I've been preparing the videos, and then I've been growing it ahead of time. So people are going to get this at the beginning of March, and they'll get the videos, then they'll get the seeds, then they can grow them. And then as they click on these things, yes, I've got my seeds, they'll get the next video. And then once they say, yes, I've done my soil prep, and it basically just cues you along, and you get all this support on how to grow. And then at the end of it, you can apply that to a recipe. And I think that's a really wonderful way of thinking about giving people the skills, and then you can get to know local growers and how well that those seeds grow in your local area, and then start to share and connect, and then away you go. You know, the local seed service actually seeds a local community of gardeners. So that's something that I've been involved with at the moment, and I'm happy to say that the seeds that I've sown have been germinating, and they're really coming along nicely. And the little videos will go out in about 4 weeks, I think. So yeah, these all tie in with what some of the comments here are saying around growing things yourself. Just got some free seed from a local botanic garden, says Annie. I'm so excited to plant in springtime. Annie's over in the US. Priscilla says, whenever I use my nan's and mum's pots, bowls and kitchen spoons to cook family recipes, I feel such a deep connection to them now they have passed. Yeah, so anyway, nice themes for today. I'll show you how my things, I think they're pretty much ready. Oh, that's hot. All the steam came out. Hang on a sec. Here we go. Yeah, they're pretty good. Look at this. And I like it because I kind of left the pieces a bit longer.
Oh, yeah.
So that, you know, you get the nice little charred bits of kale and silver beet, and there's charred corn on the top. I reckon they're ready to go. Well, I'll just get my little spoon and run around the outside, and I'll bring one out for you to see it in 3 dimensions. But in the meantime, how's yours going, Kirsty?
It's great. Do you want to switch the screen? I've got it out of a tin, and it's a bit warm to cut, but it's I'll just show it when you bring it up.
It looks really yum, Kirsty.
It looks beautiful.
Tastes like a pie.
What are you doing, Kirsty? Here we go.
Oh, yum.
Oh, yum.
It looks...
Hey, look at that.
Wow.
That'll feed the whole picture.
That
The whole picnic, I might need to make a few. So you can cut this into any size you like. So if I was going to have it for like a main meal, I'd probably cut this into maybe eight pieces, and we might have maybe 2 pieces each. But for a picnic, I would cut it much smaller, because it's bite size.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful.
You can do it how you like, but I think sometimes when you're sitting down with people and you're kind of grazing and you can just have finger foods, you might have salad to do a dish like that, but I think the picnic that we're having in a couple of weeks' time, especially with me, I'll be running around doing different things, and so will Costa, just to be able to stop and nibble as you go and enjoy the company and enjoy the location that we're at. So we should also mention
Nice,
how
okay.
your friends, they going good? Great.
That?
Oh, look at this. The pre-oiled, spray-oiled muffin tray. It's just, have a look at this. Boink, straight out.
Incredible.
Yum.
Like ready to go into the Tupperware, or ready to be eaten. But yeah, they're just, look at that. Let me show you, sort of, for anyone, because someone mentioned earlier, I don't want to use a muffin tin because look at it where it came out.
It's clean. Wow.
It's perfectly clean. And there's the base of it.
The key was
And that's the
the
top.
right.
Amazing.
Yeah. They look
It's too hot to eat.
So it's really
They're all coming out of the tree.
now. Just put them into your container, and there's no waste.
Yeah.
You can there, or grab a plate if you want to grab a plate. I'll take my camp plate, so you might have a picnic set, whatever it is, and it's so easy to do it. I wouldn't really think for your lunch for work. It's not too different, really. It's just that one's in a beautiful garden, and one might be a lunch treat. So it's just hard. And I know we are preaching to the converted, but it's also good to be able to take a few tips and maybe you can watch this and just encourage people to everywhere you go.
Oh, we're getting very hungry with all
my
those
God,
beautiful.
yeah.
Oh my God,
We
very
have
tempting as well.
we have here some bread and some guacamole and some tamarindo and
Yeah, we're gonna sit for a feast, won't we?
yes. Should we start eating? Oh, you start, Kirsty?
You guys are welcome to start eating. Go for it. That's fine. Pop over. I've had to charge up my computer. And Laura is asking, she wonders how much powder the eggshells would blend down to. What would you say, Costa?
What was that?
How much powder would the eggshells blend down to?
Oh, so yeah, for anyone that was watching that live yesterday. Oh, by the way, only one stuck a little bit at the top end, but even then, if I give it a bit of a scratch, it pretty much comes off. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Out of 12, only one stuck a little bit. The rest are all clean. So I'm very happy about that because that's low wash as well. And here's the finished result. I don't know if you can see it.
It's beautiful.
There we go.
Amazing.
They look great.
Yeah. Yum.
Perfect picnic food. They're still a bit hot to eat though. So, well, is there anything else you'd like to add, Mariam?
Well, I'll just like to add that the fact that, we shared this beautiful evening together in cooking food from our gardens, our friends' gardens, and what an incredible way to spend an evening. I mean, it's just so surreal for me. And then the whole nation is watching as well, Costa. So that's such privilege I feel that we have as communities, and I'm very excited about how our beautiful world is changing and becoming, something that we are co-creating together.
No,
Well,
that's
thank you for what was that, Kirsty?
No, I was going to say it's been lovely having Mariam here. She's been great company to cook with.
Oh, thank you for having me, Katsi, and for inviting me to this beautiful space. I can't wait to meet you in person on the big picnic day. And I know Costa and I have met before, and we always share a little bit of, spaces in speaking and connect with each other every now and again. But I haven't seen him for a long time, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. I might be on stage with you as well, Costa.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm looking forward to that.
Totally. Me too.
Yeah, so for anyone, keep an eye out on the National Sustainable Living Festival Facebook, Instagram, and website for not just of course, the great local picnic, but for lots of other great conversations, panel discussions, and events across the next couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to being down there for that weekend and the picnic itself. Someone asked me what I do with my eggshells. Well, if you have a look on my my Instagram,
Instagram.
I'd basically been stacking them across this windowsill during the entire COVID period, and they were stacked up about that high. And then I did a live broadcast and blended them all down in my blender and ran some competitions as to how many cups of ground eggshell there would be. And it turned out there was 18.5 cups. The second competition was how many small takeaway containers it would fill, and it was 6.5. And then the third part of the guessing competition was how many kilos of eggshells, and that turned out to be 4.68 kilos of eggshells. So now my windowsill is beautiful and clean again. And normally I just have this little container and I just put the shells in there. So what I've done, you can see these ones here just on my sink. I give them a rinse to get any yolk out of the bottom. Then I let them dry. Then I put them in this container, and I normally let them stack to that high, which is about one blender size full. And then I blend it, and then I give it away to people to use in their veggie patch around their seedlings, mix into their compost. You can even mix it in with your chicken food as well, because it's a wonderful mineral supplement and good for the chickens because they need that calcium to make new eggs. But the key thing being that there's not a smell of egg around it, because then they might start to eat their eggs, which you don't want them to do. But I also saw in the comments on that post that someone said that they actually blend it right down into a powder and then mix it in with their smoothies and drinks as a dust powder that they have, you know, for themselves. But there's lots of places you can use. You can put it in your worm farm, put it in your compost bin, put it in your potting mix and your soil mixes, put it around your seedlings, lots of different things. So yeah, that will fill up, and from here on in, only to there. There's not going to be that big mammoth pile again. But yeah, I've got a heap of it now, all minced up, that I'll give to people as well. So any final words, Kirsty? We'll wrap up. People want to get to have dinner.
I'm looking forward to seeing you both in person, and everybody else who's watching that can make the local lunch. If you're watching this now on the replay and you've seen this, come and say hi and let us know how you've gone. I put in the chat just before a link to a blog post that I wrote with a whole lot of different tips and ideas so you can have a zero waste picnic, from the food ideas to whatever. But it's really up to you what you do. If cooking's not your thing, you can just chop up some veggies and make a salad. You could actually take your containers and get dips if you want to. I think they're easy to make, all sorts of things. But there are some great things in the festival. Helena Norberg Hodge, she'll be speaking at the picnic. She's also speaking this Saturday at 2 p.m. at, I've gone blank, she's in the city. And we've got the following week, we've got a talk on the toxic truth, which will be quite interesting, of the chemicals in your house, the chemicals in your clothes. That'll be a really interesting panel talk the day before. Zero Waste Victoria is also at Fed Square on the 25th of February with a repair cafe. A massive repair cafe is going to be there. You can take your broken things in to be fixed, and we're so excited that it's going to be at Fed Square. We're also at Queen Vic Market on the 24th. We're actually teaching people how to make reusable produce bags by hand with reclaimed materials, and talking to shoppers, encouraging them to reduce their waste. So there's a few things on the top of my head, but definitely look the program up. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing some of you at the picnic, and everybody else, I look forward to seeing you at the next cook-along, whenever that will randomly pop up in your newsfeed.
Beautiful. Thank you, Katsi. I was asked a question, what is the name of my beautiful friend who's cooking with me tonight? This is Nina, and Nina is a volunteer at the Royal Garden, and we've been having since December, I think. We hosted a lot of events here. We invite people to come and share food with us, and it's been such a lovely time. And yeah, say a few words, Nina.
Now, thanks for the space, guys. Thanks for contact, Mariam. We need to keep growing this community. And today is Valentine's Day. I didn't know that. What a special day. We're sharing love for food, stories about food, and we are creating a community and I love that. I can't wait for the great picnic.
Happy Valentine's, everyone. And
Happy
send
Valentine's.
love in your communities.
Aw.
It's the best thing to do.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Mariam. Absolute treat. And I must say, Nina, I missed you. I missed you earlier because I think I was running down getting the power back on. So when that came up, I was thinking, how am I going to wrap it up and just say, oh, bye, Mariam and friend, bye, Mariam and assistant cook, bye, Mariam and random person in the frame.
Okay, Costa, you can reverse that, coming to help us in the garden. I need some advice. We're going to
Thank you so much. All right, well, we'll sign off. Have a great evening, everyone. And I think Mariam said that she'll put the recipe up in the comments, I suppose, for those people that were looking for it.
On the garden, yeah.
And as for my recipe, well, that was pretty loose. It was pretty loose, just as my grandmother used to do it. So I'm very happy about that.
We lost Costa.
I would say we have, but we're just about to wrap up. So we'll just say bye, everyone, and I'll jump over to my computer and I'll end the broadcast.
Thank you so
See
much,
you.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.